He smiled with a face the world could trust. And I learned to doubt my own reflection. To everyone else, he was warm, attentive, measured. The kind of man people described as safe. But love can look very different behind closed doors. Because some harm doesn't shout. It whispers. It corrects you gently. It tilts reality just slightly enough that you begin questioning your own memory. Two faces lived in one man. One for applause. One for control. And I slowly became fluent in the version no one else saw. It didn't begin with cruelty. It began with confusion. He rewrote moments I clearly remembered. Softened sharp words into, "You're too sensitive." Turned silence into, "I just need space." Turned withdrawal into, "I'm protecting us." And every time I felt hurt, the focus shifted, from his behavior to my reaction. That's how emotional neglect works. Not through explosions, but through absence. Absence of reassurance. Absence of repair. Absence of accountability. And when your feelings are consistently minimized, you begin minimizing yourself. I started editing my tone. Shrinking my needs. Rehearsing conversations in my head before speaking them out loud. Not because I was dramatic. Not because I wanted conflict. But because I had learned that expressing pain would somehow become evidence against me. He didn't have to raise his voice. Control can be quiet. It can sound like concern. Look like protectiveness. Feel like love. But love doesn't make you question your sanity. And care doesn't erase your reality. Still, I stayed. Because the good moments felt real. And trauma bonds don't form around hatred. They form around hope. Chains don't always make noise. Some are made of doubt. Of second-guessing yourself before anyone else can. Of fear disguised as loyalty. Of believing that if you just explain yourself better, love will finally feel safe again. I wasn't weak. I was trying to preserve connection. But connection without emotional safety slowly turns into survival mode. And survival mode looks a lot like shrinking. And then, something changed. Not loudly. Not suddenly. There was no dramatic moment. No cinematic goodbye. Just a quiet awareness. A pause where I realized, I was more anxious around him than alone. More guarded in love than in solitude. And that awareness was the first crack in the mask. The light didn't flood in all at once. It flickered. But it was enough. Enough to see that charm isn't character. That attention isn't intimacy. That being chosen isn't the same as being valued. I started remembering who I was before I began filtering myself to fit his comfort. Before my needs felt negotiable. Before I mistook emotional distance for depth. I didn't break because I was weak. I broke because something inside me refused to disappear quietly. And when I walked away, it wasn't loud. It wasn't vengeful. It was steady. Two faces. One lie. One woman who chose herself. And she is not who she used to be. She is free. If this resonated with you, know this: emotional neglect is hard to name because it leaves no visible bruise, only self-doubt. What was the moment you realized you were shrinking in love? Your story might help someone else recognize their own. Healing begins with awareness. And you are not alone. Be prosperous and share happiness.